Hello, this is the RPG Crawler, and welcome to another Indie Game Friday, where each week I take a look at a different independent role-playing game. This week I'm taking a look at a sci-fi dungeon crawler that's been on my list to review for a while now, Deep Sky Derelicts. Developed by Snowhound Games and published by 1C Entertainment, it was released on Steam back on September 26, 2018, and recently, as of this recording, got an expansion, New Prospects. This review was done with New Prospects installed, and although I didn't touch on much of the DLC-specific content, be aware that some minor differences may occur in just the base game as a result. Deep Sky Derelicts is a dungeon-crawling style RPG set in a distant future, where you control a team of scavengers searching through derelict ships and stations in the reaches of space. It is turn-based with some procedural generation and a card-based combat system. Graphically, it bears a comic book art style that, along with some elements of the gameplay, invites certain comparisons with Darkest Dungeon, although this particular game goes a little bit beyond that. In terms of plot, you are one of a team of scavengers that makes their living going into various abandoned, ancient space vessels and salvaging items and goods. You are summoned forth before a sector sub-governor and given a task. Find a mythical abandoned ship called the Mothership, and you can be granted galactic citizenships. And so you go out to begin a search for a few derelicts, not only to scrounge up salvage, but also to look into further clues as to the location of this ancient mothership. When you start the game, you have two game modes to choose from. The campaign mode, where you go through the main story, and then the arena mode. In the arena mode, you simply guide a team through increasingly difficult combat encounters, so I'm going to focus on the story mode. When you select the campaign and start a new game, you are given a chance to create 3 characters for your team. You may name your team whatever you wish, or randomly generate the characters via a roll button. Each character has a name that is randomly generated, but can be changed, a portrait, a class, 5 main attributes, and a personality. The 5 attributes are weaponry, tech, medical, scavenging, and mental. These roughly correspond to the different types of moves and tests that are within the game, and certain classes function better with a particular attribute. The personality each character has may also provide a minor boost to some aspect of play. You also select a difficulty between normal and a permadeath one-save hardcore mode. Once in the game, you have a brief introductory scene that allows you to obtain your main quest mission, and then access to a general station interface. Within the station, you may click on each building to deal with that particular building's purpose. The station hall takes you back to the governor for main quest-related issues. The research workshop allows you to upgrade team-based tasks, mostly to do with your energy, scanning, and salvaging. Lair Mercenary Hub allows you to accept side missions and hire replacement characters. Deep Space Medical lets you treat characters that get wounded or knocked out on a mission. And the Pawn Shop allows you to buy and sell goods and gear. And finally, the Deep Sky Express is a spaceship that allows you to travel to different derelicts that you know the location of. As for your PDA, this is where a fair amount of the game actually takes place. It has a crew section that allows you to manage your crew members, an inventory menu that allows you to change what is equipped and review what you have obtained, a mission log that shows what missions you currently have open, and finally a scanner screen where you actually handle the majority of exploration. In the Crew tab, more information on each crew member may be seen. Each character may earn experience and gradually level up. Aside from the earlier attributes, each character also has health and shield ratings. Shields recharge between fights and can be recharged during a fight sometimes, and they're basically a buffer of points to defend from damage before your health takes damage. Your health is your actual hit points and should be treated back at the station if you take damage. Each character also has an initiative rating that determines when they act in combat, a series of potential modifiers such as extra damage, energy efficiency, stun resistance, or evasion, which vary from character to character depending on what they have equipped, and finally their weapon details including damage and any special weapon effects. Characters also have a skill tree from levels 1 to 10. Each level they can gain skill points which may be used to obtain skills that they qualify for or augment skills that they've already purchased. It seems that most skills have up to 3 points invested in them, At level 4, each character may also choose a specialization, which changes about half of that skill tree to a different set of skills depending on the specialization. It should be noted that it does not appear that those specializations are class dependent. Any character can take any specialization, although certain specializations certainly do synergize with certain classes a lot better. Each character may equip 3 or 4 items depending on the class, each of which may have up to 2 mods. These items may consist of weapons, tools, and a shield core. Weapons are used for attacks, of course. Shield cores affect the character's shield rating and his regeneration, while tools are multi-purpose and may modify both attacks and what a character recovers after combat. Finally, characters also have a deck of cards that are drawn in combat. Each card is a move or an attack that are played as actions during a fight. I'll get more into that in a moment, but it is important to note that cards are automatically put into the character's deck on account of their class, the skills they obtain, and then their equipment, without you having any feedback. Each equipment and skill can contribute various cards, and some cards are notably way less useful than others. So when you assign skills and gear, you not only have to pay attention to the stat boosts that the equipment or skill may offer, but also what cards that they force into your deck to prevent certain ones from being diluted out of sequence. The group as a whole shares its overall inventory as well as its credits, or CC. CC is basically used to purchase items and pay for energy refills, treatment, and other services. Inventory may be equipable items such as weapons, tools, or shield cores, modifications that can be equipped to each weapon, consumables such as energy cores, and just loot. Loot can be salvaged for energy or sold, and certain bits of loot may grant more energy than they should when they're salvaged, or be worth more than they should when they're sold at a pawn shop. In terms of missions, most are either go to a certain place and perform a task, or collect a certain number of a certain item and then return it to the quest giver. There seems to be a fair number of different types of quests at first glance, but at the end of the day, most are boiled down to just those 2 formats, and many times you'll just automatically achieve them over the course of a normal exploration without even trying. So while some quests may provide some forward direction to earn towards, the majority are really just forgettable. The final bit of the PDA is the scanner, and this is where the bulk of exploration of Derelicts takes place. As such, it's only active when you're out on an adventure. The bulk of the scanner screen is the map, where rooms are represented by squares with icons where special details may be noted, or where enemies are. These are only mapped out to where a character is scanned and may be uncovered either through scanning or through direct exploration. Along the left side of the screen are various consumables that may be used during exploration, including energy cores that restore energy, generators that provide power to an area, hazard protection that protects you from certain hazards, and so on and so forth. Each square may also have a few different special qualities, such as low gravity, energy surge, or whatever, that provide certain debuffs or buffs and are represented by single icons. A character may move in one of 3 ways, stealthily, normally, or in a rush, which modifies how much energy each step takes, as well as your encounter rate. On the right-hand side, characters may scan, learning details of their surroundings out to a certain limit determined by how much they've upgraded their scanners, or remote scan that allows you to do much the same thing but without going there, just at an increased energy cost. Finally, there's your current energy level. This amount may be upgraded, but it is one of the main gameplay elements of the game. Everything takes energy, from scanning to moving to even undertaking rounds of combat. It constantly decreases and may be increased by using energy cores, salvaging certain objects, or through certain rare events. If you run out, bad things happen, so it's imperative to keep that energy up. At the beginning of the game, this can be very limiting, but once you learn how to manage the energy, get a few upgrades, and perhaps set a few generators on board ships, then it becomes much more reasonable. It effectively limits how long you can take on an expedition and forces you to return to the main station every so often, which can be a good idea anyway, so you can treat wounds and sell loot. On to combat. Each character and enemy is ordered according to initiative, and each character may at first take one action, although at certain points or when energized you get another action. At the start of a combat, each character draws a number of random cards from their action deck and may also use one during each action that they take. These can range from attacks to defenses to other abilities. Then they select the target or group of the targets if they're using an area of effect card. At the start of each turn, they may draw another card, and by using certain cards or abilities, they may draw more. Certain classes have an ability that allows them to draw a few cards from the action deck and then select one. In fact, I think almost all of the classes do, just in case you're not happy with your current outlay of events. A character who is energized might take an additional action, i.e. play an additional card their turn. Each character or an opponent has health and shields, although some monstrous creatures may only have health, and you generally have to reduce shields to 0 before seriously impacting health. Once a creature is reduced to 0 health, they are destroyed, and when all of the enemies are defeated, survivors may obtain loot and experience. There is also an option to attempt to escape, which causes your characters to skip their turns and try to run. This can be of somewhat varying effectiveness, though. During exploration, you may also uncover all manner of events, from other teams of scavengers to NPCs that offer quests, rooms that you can go ahead and search, and AIs that can also offer quests, or even enclaves or survivors on the Derelicts. Friendly enclaves may be traded with and offer quests, while hostile enclaves may be raided to trigger a series of waves of enemies that can be defeated before you can loot those rooms. It should be noted that you can, indeed, attack friendly enclaves if you particularly care to. So that's the gameplay loop, really, the same as many other roguelikes. You get missions, go and explore, fight and loot until you're forced to retreat back to the station where you can manage your party and inventory and then go right back in. It's a pretty tried and true bit of gameplay. In terms of graphics, Deep Sky Derelicts uses a gritty comic book inspired art style complete with action panels during attacks that really do give the game its own feel. In terms of music and sound, the music is decent, although I wouldn't call it great, and the audio feedback is pretty solid. I have no complaints about either graphics or sound, really. But that's not to say that I don't have some critiques of the game overall. The UI can be a little bit clumsy at times, not atrociously so, but it does feel a bit odd, for instance, to have to go to the PDA screen to explore a derelict. I can't help but picture these teams of hardcore mercenaries all with their heads down staring at their phones as they wander through these halls. The quests are largely forgettable, with a few requiring any sort of real effort. The randomized gear does feel a bit samey, although that's really a problem with the genre as a whole. There is some variation in that you're not only balancing stats, but also the cards a piece of gear can contribute, but even that can only go so far. The energy mechanic, while neat at first, is a bit awkwardly implemented, and I found that in the beginning it very much limits you, but after just a few hours of play, it quickly turned from a limiting factor to exploration to an annoying money and time sink. Finally, the RNG in terms of enemy encounters can be more brutal than any loot-related RNG in similar games that I've encountered. You can be breezing through enemies with no real problem, and then randomly get curb-stomped by one right out of the blue. The difficulty of actually escaping an encounter contributes to this issue. I normally wouldn't have that much of an issue with random difficulty spikes. I am an old-school tabletop gamer after all, but the fact is that an enemy strong enough to steamroll through your group is likely going to demolish any attempts that you make to escape them, and that can be a serious issue. Deep Sky Derelicts is an okay game. It's not great, but it is okay. It has more to offer, at least in terms of systems, than some other games that it's commonly compared with, but that more is tempered with those systems being a bit shallow. I can't really say that the gameplay is repetitive as a critique, because it is in a genre that thrives on that, but after a while you may get the feeling that you've just been wandering around the same ship the entire game. The expansion does a little bit to alleviate this, I will admit. It does introduce a few new battlegrounds. It is a fun game, and I did have fun with it, but all in all, I have to say that Deep Sky Derelict still needs a little bit more polish as of this recording, even months after its release. I would recommend picking this one up if you can get it on sale, and if you like the semi-roguelike genre, team management, and the comic book aesthetic. And on that note, I'm going to leave it off here. As always, I'll put a link in the description below. This has been the RPG Crawler with Indie Game Friday Deep Sky Derelicts. If you like what you've seen, remember to leave a like, comment if you got any feedback, and subscribe for more RPG content, both tabletop and computer. If you're feeling particularly generous and would like to support this channel and the reviews I make, I am accepting contributions through Subscribestar and Patreon, which will net you early access to some reviews, access to my Patreon streams, and more. Until next time, take care and goodbye.